Hello, everyone. Once again, it's Robert Asencio on Let's Talk with Robert Asencio. We're at Miami's Community News. So, elections, like we just spoke on the previous show, they're up and coming. Many people still have voter fatigue from the 2020 cycle. But guess what? 2022 is here, and we have elections. One of those elections coming up is in the city of South Miami, specifically for the mayor of the city of South Miami. Well, Javier Fernandez, former state representative, House District 114, a former member of the House, one of my colleagues when I was serving in the House, has been the first to file to become the mayor of South Miami. And today we have him here. Welcome.
It's great to be here, Robert. Thanks for the invitation.
Good deal, man. I see a little smile there. So you're doing good. How's the family?
Everyone is great. Blessed. My wife still tolerates me after almost 18 years of marriage. And my daughter is a woman. She's turning 14. It's
now that's
scary
hard to
and
believe
beautiful.
How quickly they grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And my son turns 12 this year and spent the year coaching his flag football team. We've got another season starting in a couple of weeks and tackle football. So it's been a fun year.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal. So, South Miami, I think is a gem, the city of South Miami. Yeah. But before we go into South Miami, while you're running, let's talk a little bit about you. You're, like I said before, you're a former state representative.
Yep.
One of those state representatives that got elected because you were walking the beat, right? You were actually out there knocking on doors. And I know that's part of your whole drive with the city of South Miami, becoming a mayor. You're knocking on those doors and getting people to know you. And I commend you for that. You're a husband, father of two. You're a law grad.
I am, yes.
And now you're in private sector, which you're a private attorney. So tell us what firm you're with and what you're doing.
So I have been practicing for the last 12 years. I'm currently with a firm of SMGQ Laws, our DBA, headquartered now at Brickell, formerly in the Gables. And my other half life is with a development company here in Miami, the Allen Morris Company. It's a third generation firm, 65 years in business. I serve as their outside general counsel. So most of my work is in the ambit of land use, land development, which is one of the reasons I really want to run for mayor. We've got South Miami's blessed to be a small community with a historic Main Street that has struggled in recent years, and we're undergoing an analysis of what we should do in the future with it. And I'm hoping to bring kind of that experience and perspective to this opportunity.
Well, Javi, let's get right into it. And you don't mind if I call you Javi, because
of course,
I think that's our friend name.
So,
it's very interesting because you and I, when we served in the House, we discussed about, plans. And some of your plans were really struck with me, certainly with addressing people's needs.
Yeah.
So we have community South Miami. It's a mixed community. You have one section that's higher level education, higher level earnings, and then you have another area that's a little less.
Sure.
So what do you plan to do if you become mayor? What are you seeking to bring to the city of South Miami? How can the residents benefit from electing you?
Yeah, I think I want to be a mayor for all the city. And I think quite often, in my House race, we spent a lot of time walking the precinct around Marshall Williamson Park. And, there are some real opportunities to help lift up a historically African-American neighborhood that at one point had the benefit of a CRA that's been extinguished, and really connect them to what's happening south of Dixie Highway, and hopefully the future vibrancy around our downtown. And also connect that community that has a strong culture, identity, legacy tied to J.R.E. Lee, and also an identity that's very much wedded in home ownership, right? So a very stable community, to also create some opportunities to connect it to a lot of the resources that make South Miami really unique. For a town or city of 12,000 people, geographically, we've got the University of Miami as an asset next door. We've not really connected to it. We've not really made it our institution as well. We should, seize that mantle along with Coral Gables and connect to those opportunities. And I think for some of the, less affluent portions of our community, there are things we can do to connect all of our community to a lot of the budding activity in the tech world here and help address some of that equity gap. And that's an issue that for me when I was running for the Senate, particularly with communities like Homestead and South Dade that geographically are a bit more disconnected from what's happening in our county's economy. I thought there was an opportunity to kind of work with one program in particular I've been targeting called Bitwise out of California, where, through on-the-job training and certifications, one can begin to connect to opportunities in tech and really lift one's income and one's future economic prospects.
So that's interesting because no matter where you're out on the spectrum, that's really the future, and the
That
future is here.
the future's
Technology.
here. I mean, and we're either going to use the public purse
Mhm.
to get a double bottom line benefit, not only getting the benefit of the services we need to, obviously compete in today's economy, but also use that as a way to build human capital here locally as opposed to having to import it from other communities.
It's very smart, very smart. And you have the Metro Rail, right? The trail
Yeah,
that
we are a South Dade community that is already connected to rail, right? Communities like Pinecrest, Palmetto Bay, which are Cutler Bay, which are represent the past and are wonderful communities in their own right, that have a lot of assets, don't have that asset that South Miami has, and frankly, I think that's something that we need to, as a city, embrace, right? The connectivity opportunities we have to be connected very quickly to job centers, Jackson, right? Biomedical facilities, et cetera, for our resident population is important, and it's important for our future growth. We should leverage that asset and really make that an integral part of our downtown and allow our downtown to grow and flourish around that rail for the benefit, not just of our town, but of the entire county.
I'm glad you're talking about like revitalization of the downtown area,
Yeah.
right? 72nd Street and between US 1 and South Dixie and what?
Yeah.
50. Actually, it goes a little farther.
It goes
57.
across 60 Highway, right? Down to 62nd down the street here. That's what I think of the downtown, and it's certainly mayors like Horace Fallu and Phil Sauter in the past invested in that physical infrastructure. Certainly, it's got a wonderful scale that I'd like to preserve. But I think, we have been a little short-sighted in looking at development as an opportunity to kind of grow and address traffic and, through growth, frankly. The city recently on the west side of US 1 had a chance to embrace a project that would have had a Publix at the ground floor. And, having served and represented some of the older folks that live at Metro South, just across from City Hall and next to GRE Lee, at some of the related projects that are owned by Miami-Dade County, it would be wonderful for that community not to have to cross US 1 to go to Winn-Dixie, right? It would be wonderful for communities east of US 1 to have had a supermarket west of US 1 so that the traffic from surrounding communities would not cross over US 1 and further burden our roadway network. And so I think, smart planning, smart development should be at the core of our community's focus. And I commend commissioners like Brian Corey that are on the dais right now who have been, forcing the city to spend some dollars to analyze what we should be doing with what I think is a very good hometown code in the downtown that we should just allow to flourish, develop, and modify in ways maybe to attract and incentivize more development. I think South Miami is a community that's blessed with a lot of interest. Unfortunately, I think some of the perceived instability in the government has really discouraged development. And so what I want to do is be a stabilizing force, because ultimately, Robert, for us to, make South Miami more affordable, because it's gotten increasingly unaffordable, both in terms of property insurance rates increasing, but also the tax burden, we've got to grow. We've got to grow in smart ways so we can actually lower our taxing effort. Right now, we're at 4.3 mils, and in an environment like the one that we're all living, where housing prices are escalating, even with the homestead exemption, you're still going to clip at 3% a year. For the average homeowner, for a lot of my older neighbors, those costs are not insignificant. And so, we've got to do our part to reduce the cost of living in what is a really wonderful choice community like ours.
To your point about economic hardships and creating projects that will essentially benefit the community, right? Reducing the tax burden on the residents. The Alice report. Remember the United Way Alice report?
Sure, yeah.
Have you read the 2020 addendum that basically points to in Dade County about 50% of the 59%, almost 60% of the households.
Yeah, our cost burden, yeah.
Yeah, the cost burden, man.
Yeah.
And people think the people that are cost burden are the people in lower socioeconomic scales or stratus. But the reality is that hardship extends to even people who are more affluent.
Yeah,
so
look,
having you talking about this is very important.
I'll tell you, it's, affordability hits everyone. And I mean, I'm 47 this year, so starting to think about what retirement might look like in hopefully 20 years or so. And I, remember the experiences 4 years ago. Now we're knocking on doors in my own neighborhood. I've seen older couples, you'd certainly take advantage of the market run up and the valuations, but in many cases they have to sell because property insurance costs, which are really beyond the scope of the job I'm seeking, but property taxes, the combination of both those things, the incremental costs every year make it harder and harder to stay. And so, I'd like to create with the help of my colleagues, a community where we've got opportunities for everyone, not just to live for a period, but to, age into the community. And so I think, some of the projects that have been talked about downtown, they're maybe a little bit more vertical than we've seen historically, are opportunities for people to, like my neighbors, to
Mhm.
sell and maybe transition into, a multifamily product that they can live in more comfortably in a more economically. And so having a range of housing diversity where it's appropriate, right? We want to make sure we protect our single family neighborhoods, but where it's appropriate, allowing for new kinds of living opportunities, I think is important to have a diverse city where people of all ages
Yeah.
can participate.
The mayor has only so much authority,
Sure.
right? And the commission or the council of
It's
housing has so
a
much.
city manager form of government.
Yeah.
So,
But I think the positive piece here is that you bring your experience from the state legislature,
yeah,
which a mayor, in order to bring some state dollars down, has to have some level of experience or
Yeah.
some connectability to understanding of the legislature, because let's face it, a lot of the money is going to come from, or some of the money will come from, and the policies will come from Tallahassee. But let's talk about the rising cost of insurance. What will you do as mayor to influence Tallahassee to resolve that issue?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, there are two different styles of leadership, and mine is to kind of work to build consensus.
Mhm.
I don't want to, I understand the difficulties. Just how I appreciate more than ever how hard it is to do things in Tallahassee. Get a bill heard is not even an easy feat when you're in the minority. So, I think what we want to do with, our future speaker here, Danny Perez, who, is from this community and someone who I've worked with, and is have those conversations privately and say, hey, we really need to address these issues. Let's think about reducing the cost of reinsurance to the state's guarantee
Yeah.
fund in a way that's more substantial, because otherwise, Citizens keeps growing and the state's really underwriting that risk. We should be doing everything we can to try to bring more carriers to the market.
Mhm.
That's not going to happen by, me proposing a resolution to basically, shame the legislature into a special session.
Yeah.
I think we're better served with local leadership that is engaging directly with members, having those conversations in quiet spaces and saying, these are the kinds of things that we're seeing impacting our neighborhoods, our communities, and then helping them find solutions and building support for them to take action. I think one of the things we'd like to change, and I think I speak for Commissioner Corey and Commissioner Liebman on the commission as well, is let's not get into a back and forth with Tallahassee as much as the city has in the past. We certainly want to live our values and stand up for them, but as a body, act in a way that kind of creates more consensus, a positive working relationship with Tallahassee and our other levels of government. Because at the end of the day, you're right, we have to draw upon resources from multiple levels, because a city with a $26 million operating budget is not going to be able to fund all of its challenges on its own.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, just safety, right?
Yeah.
And as you begin to bring more people into the communities, you begin to grow the economic development side of the community, of the town. You have to even spend more money on services, including police.
Well, one of the opportunities I think that we have is, we have, to credit the current mayor and commission, they've done a good job in investing in parks. My only frustration, what they've done, I live near Fuchs Park, which is, on the corner of 80th Street and US 1. It's a wonderful renovation that they've done to that park. The park's never looked better in, certainly the time I've lived in the community. But, one of the missed opportunities is that it's the taxpayers of South Miami paying for those improvements, but none of the immediate residences are in the city of South Miami. And so, I think what's missing in terms of a strategy for the city is figuring out how we can annex and incorporate those areas. So while we're delivering improvements to a park like Fuchs or to a park like David, near David Fairchild Elementary, South Miami Park, again, surrounded by unincorporated Dade, where we're going to make a substantial investment there right now, is bringing those communities into the fold. And you need a strategy, a long-term strategy, to reduce your millage rate in order to get there. Because again, we're competing in a marketplace with Miami-Dade County, who's got a very low millage rate, but we can make a case that it's economically rational for communities to want to join our city if we plan to reduce our millage rate over time, and then sell the wonderful services that we have. We've got personalized building and planning services. We've got a local police force, which is a rarity. We've got fantastic, garbage collection services. Those are our value enhancements, service enhancements that we could sell to those communities, but we've got to make the case economically rational. And I think, that's really one of those missed opportunities that I hope to focus on as mayor.
So do you think you have buy-in from the residents to annex?
Look, we'll have that conversation, but I think certainly, it's a conversation I think we should bring to the fore, because we are investing scarcity resources in facilities where our residents are not the primary beneficiaries, right? Certainly, I walk and enjoy Fuchs Park. Our residents around South Miami Park near David Fairchild Elementary do the same. But again, when 80% of the surrounding area is not in your city, 80% of the benefit arguably is being enjoyed by people who aren't contributing to those improvements. So I think it's a strategy that would rationalize our service footprint, and it's a conversation we should have. And I think it's a conversation that has started. Certainly, Mayor Stoddard made a strong push to incorporate High Pines, which would be a wonderful addition to our community. But I think some of the instability, and eventually, after he left, the failure of the ability to move forward and the improvements of Sunset Place, I think dampened a lot of the enthusiasm for being part of the city, right? What people want is predictability, and they want quality services. I think that's where we've got an opportunity to kind of maybe change the public's perspective on the operations of the city.
What do you think is the biggest issue that South Miami faces right now that needs to be addressed?
Yeah, look, I think, we cannot pay enough attention to the future viability and prospects of our downtown. And when I talk about our downtown, it's not just the footprint that's in the city. We share a boundary with Coral Gables at 57th Avenue. I think to the average person, who's not like you and I, deeply in the weeds around local government, they don't see a boundary there. So we've got to work with our neighbors in Coral Gables to make sure that we create a cohesive, Main Street district around Sunset Boulevard. And, that 8-acre footprint at Sunset Place is a project that really needs our attention. If that project goes well, that's $6 or $7 million of recurring revenue a year we can bring into the city. With a budget our size, that's a substantial increase in revenue receipts. That then begins to allow us to do a lot of different things: reduce our millage, modify and improve services, make other investments, where we need to also plan for the future and impacts of sea level rise, particularly around, converting from septic to sewer, where those dollars can be leveraged with state, county, federal dollars to really begin to, improve the face of the community. And I think, how we present ourselves as a community is also really important. One of the things I'm frustrated by about, our community more globally is that, and I commend the leadership of, Commissioner Liebman in this case, branding the city through signage, street signage, entryway signage, but also I think how we treat our public realm, making sure that traffic circles are properly landscaped, maintained, that these surplus right-of-ways that we have, dead-end cul-de-sacs, we treat with a particular aesthetic, all kind of speak to the average commuter who's driving through, really doesn't understand the boundaries, but makes it pop to the eye, speaks to a well-cared for, well-maintained, well-managed community. And I think that's where we can create some opportunities that I think will result in direct economic investment and value to residents, right, ultimately. And those are things I think that we're missing right now.
So in the last couple minutes here, because what I like to do is I like to have an ongoing conversation with you. Community News is located in the city of South Miami. We welcome the current mayor,
and we thank them for all the business they bring to our community. I mean, certainly we are a hub of activity for this franchise, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, and so they're a stakeholder, right?
Yeah.
So we going to welcome the current mayor, who has said, I believe she was quoted in the Florida Politics as saying she's not sure if she's going to run again, but we'll welcome her in to talk to her and get what her vision is. But this is about you talking to the constituents. In the last couple of minutes, why should they vote for you? And we know that the election is November 8th.
Yeah.
Why should they vote for you?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a resident just like them, right? I'm a stakeholder. I'm vested in the future success of South Miami as well. And I think professionally and personally, I bring not only my experience most recently with the State House, but, I've worked in local government and seen how, an administration can really change the trajectory of a community. I had the privilege of working with Mayor Diaz at the city of Miami, and I would say that but for his leadership in stabilizing the area around Midtown Miami, Wynwood and the design district wouldn't be what they are today. And so I think if we can change the leadership, the perspective, and this is not an indictment on the current mayor or any of the members, I think they're all great people, competent people. But I think if people have a sense of confidence that the government they're going to work with is going to support, or at least set the table for the kind of investment they want, for the kind of community services they want to provide, for the kind of services we want to deliver to our residents, and that people understand that value proposition, more and better things will come for the city.
So what I hear from you
Yeah.
is an administration that is built on inclusion and focused service on the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think with all starts, the value proposition has to start with what's best for the people that live in South Miami, right? And how can we lift their long-term economic prospects? How can we make decisions that are not just for the political convenience today, but for the long term? And I think we've got a community that does punch above its weight class, can punch above its weight class. We've seen how, with a little bit of time and very little public investment, wonderful things can happen culturally around, a sister cities partnership with Medellin, how we can, I think if we engage more directly with efforts like the Underline, really transform a mile of our city that is kind of our gateway in part with South Dixie Highway. More and more things like that can happen in the city because of its, frankly, just the geographic location where it's situated. University of Miami, Coral Gables, a train station. I can think of few communities in Miami-Dade that are blessed with this many assets. It's just a matter of leveraging them by engaging all the stakeholders and making sure that whatever we're doing is focused on delivering value to our residents.
Outstanding. Well, you've heard it. You have the first candidate and only candidate who's filed for the become the city mayor of the city of South Miami, as of today, that is. We have heard from former state rep Javier Fernandez, who brings his history, his background in working in law and working with the private sector as an attorney to the city. So I would welcome you, and I would ask you all to please consider Javier Fernandez's candidacy for mayor. If they need to get a hold of you, where can they find out information?
Yeah, I've taken a social media hiatus after my last foreign politics. We're just getting back on all the platforms. So for now, look, never been shy about having. I used to leave my cell phone number on all the doors. It's a small community, so if you want to call, have a conversation, 305-761-2274. Again, 305-761-2274. That's my personal cell. You can call, text anytime. Always happy to have a conversation.
And if they want to donate to your campaign or help with the campaign,
we've got, just Google us. We've got Javier Fernandez for South Miami. We've got an Anadoc link, I think, already up and running. And the response has been great. We're grateful. I just got a call last night. United Teachers of Dade has endorsed our candidacy. So we're off and running. We're excited. And we look forward to hopefully having the opportunity to serve our local community.
Well, look, we often complain about public servants, but it's up to us who gets elected to office. I would encourage you, I strongly encourage anyone who lives in the city of South Miami, anyone who's eligible to vote for the mayor's seat, to please consider who's running for office. Look at their background. Look at what they've done as far as their trajectory or their pedigree to cut to where they are to be a candidate. I think that the best government we could ever have is when we, the public, are involved. We have Javier Fernandez here. We look forward to hearing from you, the audience. Let us know what you think. Please share this video and give the candidate a call if you have any questions. But please remember Javier Fernandez for mayor of the city of South Miami. Anything
we appreciate
else?
it. And just remember the election's November 8th. It's a change from our typical election cycle here in South Miami. It's the first time we have a November election. Look forward to earning your support between now and November 8th. Thanks so much, Robert.
You're very welcome. Look forward to having you again as the campaign continues to expand
Happy to come
and
back
develop
anytime.
itself. To the Millers, the Miami Community Newspaper team, Elian, Gerald, Wilson, the production team, we can't thank you enough. But more importantly, we can't thank you, the audience. Take care, and until next time, this is Robert Asencio.